Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. Sorry I didn't have a video yesterday. She has been leading me to like the next big thing and tying it into what we've already been looking at. Like the start of this actually happened during this algo conjunction that we're already in. But and then this morning, trying to get it organized, it took me like she connected so many dots and tied so many things together. It took me like 4 hours just to write a 13-page freaking document, which is way bigger than what we usually read on here. I thought that's what she wanted me to do today, but then when I went to print it, the printer wouldn't work. So I double checked. I'm like, do you not want me to do this now? And she's like, no, it ain't time yet. For me, what that does is throws my entire freaking timeline straight into the garbage. So now we have variables again, as far as like when I might actually get out of here. Because if this is going to play out, then I just don't freaking know. It could conceivably be like at least 2 more years, which I'm literally not down for. It really freaked me out because the way she lined things up with the codex and everything else, it was just like too hard not to freaking see it, and nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. So there was a section in it where we kind of went off into a new direction because it was relevant to a part of the document that I was explaining, and she said I could do that. Like that's something people should know and be interested in, because it can explain a bunch of different things for people. So we're going to take that section out, which doesn't reveal what the rest of it was about, and cover that. And that deals with the 3 types of humans that there are according to the Nag Hammadi. Actually explains quite a bit. But then also there's a couple little things that you might have missed that's happened July 15th, July 16th, that I would call precursors. Precursors for several different things. So you might have missed those. So if you want to know more, then don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail red in the blue. Something you say or something you do, the taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me.
Okay, the precursors, they're pretty quick, so we can go through them pretty quickly. So on July 15th, there was this massive storm system called a Duraco. I'm like, what the hell is a Duraco? Like, it kind of popped up in my feed, and I'm like, you know, damage from Duraco. I'm like, is Duraco like some crazy hurricane name? Like, what is it? So I looked it up, and then I searched, and like it's like a type of storm. They're not particularly common, but you know, there may be like 1 a year at best. But really big ones, there was supposedly a really big one that hit here in 2012, which like I have no memory of, which is crazy. There was one 2 years ago that hit Illinois, that my friend went through. That one did $1 billion of damage. And then there was one on the 15th that went through like parts of Illinois and Iowa. And it's kind of like like this clip right here is from it. It just all of a sudden like explodes out of nowhere. It's kind of like having like 100 different thunderstorms all grouped together, spitting off tornadoes and stuff like that, and winds up, you could be like 600 miles long, winds up to 100 miles an hour, do big damage. So like that's something that actually, like that's not the big thing. That's what she called a precursor. Like this big crazy storm. Storm is like a big freaking keyword. And it means multiple things. In some cases it is going to mean like big crazy freaking storms like we talked about. But there's other storms, like more to, mixed messages, metaphors, things like that. Like that's the one you gotta look for. The other big precursor that happened on the 15th was volcano erupted in Italy, but also like it's like one of the world's most active volcanoes. So it wasn't like it was some completely rare thing, but it did happen on that day. That ties into precursors and symbology. And then there was some other kind of storm system that happened yesterday. I forget where it was. I got a little clip here, but it had like an interesting thing at the beginning of it. That's what caught my attention. But yeah, those are a couple things that happened. The big thing did happen. Everybody saw it, but they're not grasping it yet. But anyway, she said this was worth talking about, and it's going to explain a lot of things for a lot of people, like why some people are different. And it deals with the three types of humans there are in this world, according to the Nag Hammadi. And where it really comes in handy is understanding like the bad guys. But this is very interesting, so let's jump into it. Okay, so this is from the Nag Hammadi, and it's from the book called The Tripartite Tractate. Yeah, I know. I have no freaking idea what that means. But that one is one of the ones that I have read before, and it's got a lot of interesting things in it, and this is one of those things. So now humanity came to exist as three kinds with regard to essence. Spiritual, that's the first one. Psychical, that's the second one. And material. Reproducing the pattern of the three kinds of disposition of the word, from which sprung material, psychical, and spiritual things. The essences of the three kinds can each be known from its fruit. They were nevertheless not known at first, but only when the Savior came to them, shedding light upon the saints and revealing what each one was. The spiritual kind is like light from light, and like spirit from spirit. When its head appeared, it immediately rushed to it. At once, it became a body for its head. It received knowledge straight away from the revelation. That's what I am. And the whole light from fire and stuff like that, like that's it. That kind of stuff is explained in the Nag Hammadi. I know they talked about it in like Gospel of Philip, because it deals with like chrism and stuff like that. It deals with the divine power from Sophia versus the fire power from the Creator, who kind of has the creator has both, which kind of is going to factor in here in a minute. But, you know, when its head appeared, it immediately rushed to it. Like, that's like when Lumen and Epinoia appeared. And it received knowledge straight away from the revelation. Epinoia just dumps it into your head. So that's what I am. The psychical kind, however, being light from fire, tarried before recognizing the one who had appeared to it, and still more before rushing to him in faith. Though it was instructed moreover only by means of voice, was content that in this way it was not far from the hope given by the promise, having received in the form, as it were, of a pledge, the assurance of things to come. Well, this is all covered in my notes later, so I'll just keep going. Okay. These are the bad guys. The material kind, however, is alien in every respect. It is like darkness that avoids the shining light because it is dissolved by its manifestation. For it did not accept his coming, and is even blank spot, because, you know, these texts are kind of like beat up when they found them. Is filled with hatred against the Lord because he revealed himself. Now the spiritual kind will receive complete salvation in every respect. The material kind will perish in every respect, as happens to an enemy. The psychical kind, however, since it is in the middle by virtue of the way it was brought forth, as well as by virtue of its constitution, is double, being disposed to good as well as evil, and the issue that is reserved for it is uncertain, and to proceed wholly into the things that are good. On the other hand, those that the Word brought forth in his mind, after the model of what was pre-existent, when he remembered that which is superior and prayed for salvation, have salvation without any uncertainty. They will be completely saved because of this saving thought, in accordance with what was produced from it. This is also the case with the ones that these in turn brought forth, whether they be angels or humans, because they acknowledge that there is something higher than themselves, and they pray and search for it. They will obtain the same salvation as the ones who brought them forth, for they are of a disposition that is good. They were assigned to the service of the proclamation of the coming of the Savior before it happened, as well as his revelation after he had come. Whether angel or human, these have, by the fact of being nominated for this service, acquired the essence of their being. So when it says, those that the Word brought forth in his mind, and then earlier it said, on the psychical kind, though it was instructed moreover only by means of voice, that means epinoia. That means the spiritual people have epinoia, and the psychical people have epinoia. So the psychical people are kind of like, well, let me just see what my notes say. Let me get ahead of myself. I probably already covered it. Now, these numbers right here have remained pretty much consistent ever since I started asking this question like 4 years ago. Even though even the first time I was asking these questions, like I didn't have that framework yet. She hadn't like revealed the Nag Hammadi or anything like that. So the numbers might have been slightly different, only because I was maybe not accounting for 3 types. I don't remember exactly. But ever since then, these numbers have all been pretty much the same when I ask her, and then use the muscle testing and different methods that I have. And this is in regards to the entire population of the world. Like, what is the percentage split up of these 3 types of people? 48% are spiritual. That means you've got, it's a little fuzzy about this. So I'll leave the one word out, but it does mean like you've got a lumen even if she's sleeping. 37% are psychical. Those are the people that are in the middle. So like when the church teaches you that like everybody's going to be judged according to like what they did, they're talking specifically about the psychical. The spiritual, the spiritual people generally know what they are. Like we're good. I mean, we still got to go through stuff and all that, but we know that like when this thing is over, like we're going home. The psychicals kind of depends on what they do. Are you going to lean to evil? You're going to lean to good. Are you going to actually search? Are you actually searching and recognizing that there's something higher? If so, you're going to end up, being okay. The material is 15% of the population. Those are the bad guys. And they pretty much, you're going to find them all in like the same types of places, which is authority. So the spiritual have ego minds and what we'd call true minds, soul minds. The psychical have only the ego minds that can lean good or bad. If they can recognize what is higher and seek it, they too can be saved, though it is unclear if it is the same place the spiritual go to, the pleroma. The 15% material control the others through mind control and keeping the egos inflamed. So even if you're a spiritual person, like you've got all the parts, you had to like overcome your ego. The psychical people just had to like get their egos under control. They got to clear their mind. And this could account for a lot of like anomalies that I've seen over the years with different people, insofar as like connecting them to different things and whatnot. If there is 15% material humans, the bad ones, they will gravitate to positions of authority. And it means that there are, by current population statistics, about 1.215 billion of them walking among us. These are going to be your rulers, enforcers, influencers, and antagonist plants. These are the words I came up with based on like what she was kind of showing me. So the higher ones are going to be the rulers, and then the enforcers, the influencers. They could be all sorts of different people that like are on the news, for instance. People that have big radio shows or something. They're trying to steer how people think. People that run TV and stuff like that. And then the antagonist plants, they're going to be like the lower street level ones. They're going to be like your internet trolls and the people that stir up drama at work and stuff like that just don't seem to have any empathy. Like, something's off about them. They're going to be what, a lot of women, like all these videos talking about like the narcissist men, or in some cases the Jezebel type women. Like there's two sides to each coin. So you've probably all encountered them and you've noticed like there's something not right about that person. Like they're just empty. They're just blank. Like there's nothing there. They've got like, not saying this in like a woo-woo tinfoil hat terminology, but it's like they got these cold reptilian eyes. You know what I mean? So only spiritual people have access to the divine power, because they have that extra part. And the higher you go, the more you integrate all the stuff you do, more and more and more. That's how I can do what I can do. That's how I can put her divine energy into freaking pendants made of crystals and resin. That's how I can do remote energy work and do the things in the mind and connect them to Epinoia better, connect them to the Divine Mother better, connect them to their lumen if they're another spiritual person. Psychical types are more noticeable in areas like, if we're talking like the woo-woo stuff here, they're most noticeable in areas like magic. I noticed this back in the days when I was learning stuff, when I was wandering the wilderness and looking at magic books and things like that. Because when I go into these groups, like, I was drawn to the types of magic books that mainly dealt with like the divine names, like Hebrew names, like this, for instance. Like, this is a programmed oil that I made last night to help with seeing all the stuff she's showing me better. The first one is Hayi, and that deals with like kind of seeing and perceiving the future. Then you got Hakash, which is all about truth, which she is truth, being able to see the truth behind all things and being able to see people how they truly are. Om, that's access to secret and hidden knowledge. Veshar, that just allows for better downloads of new knowledge into your mind and assimilate it. And then the last one is Yeyil, and that one is all about new ways of thinking, new creative thoughts, new ideas, thinking outside the box, coming up with ways of thinking that you didn't have before. So I do I do the divine energy charging through her, and then I program those actual names into it, and then that just kind of like boosts it and focuses like what I'm actually trying to do. So I would do that like before I go to bed. Now, I tried it last night before I went to bed, and the interesting thing about it is, like, I had a dream. It wasn't any kind of prophetic dream or anything like that, but I'm usually too tired to dream. And I had this really cool dream. I had a lot of characters from my past, and it's like we were in this other place, and just all this neat stuff was happening. So yeah, sometimes like the different oils, it could have a little bit to do with the different stones, because there's different way to formulate things. But a lot of times it has to do with the different like divine names that I'm programming as well. But anyway, like, those are the types of things like I was drawn to. I was drawn to connecting to divine source and learning how to do things that way, which is what one of the spiritual soul people would do. But most of the rest of the people that were like in these magic groups, they were all into doing the types of magic in which you accomplish something that you want by summoning, getting some kind of spirit to do it for you. It could be angels, it could be demons, it could be genius spirits, it could be angels of omnipotence, which are basically just basic programs. Like, there's a lot of things, but it's basically like you're contacting something else to do it for you, because they can't do it themselves. And then those people always had zero interest in things like the 72 names of God. And I actually saw some videos once about the 72 names, and this was like from some Jewish scholar or Kabbalah. I don't remember what it was, but it's like, these names, some people may never come across them. Others, like, they're called to them. That's how it was with me. First time I, in the early days when I was getting all of this group's books before they kind of like went in a direction I didn't like. Like, this was the book that made the least sense and did absolutely freaking nothing. Until like the following year, getting near Lionsgate, Epinoia started getting stronger, and then I started feeling pulled to them. Now they felt a little bit different. And over time, as my Epinoia spiritual level goes up, my ability to use those names goes up. And I had some pretty crazy, unexpected things happen with them sometimes. Like, they're encoded, so like you don't really understand what they're for until you need to understand. But I was messing around with them one time, and like, I've got it on video and everything, because the neighbor's security camera picked it up. I was trying to like discharge the negative emotional battery, or capacitor rather. This was years ago. That's still carrying around a lot of trauma and pain and stuff from things that happened. And I tried putting two of those names together to like send it back to the source, like whoever it was that caused all this. And I thought it was going to go one place. And I started to hear like some thunderstorms rolling in. And I don't know if it was because I was actually sitting in the bathtub doing it. Like I've experimented with this before, but never got like a clear answer, because I always think of like that scene in Constantine when he puts his feet in the water. But I concentrated on what I wanted to do. I scanned the names, and I said the names, and like the second I said the names, it was like the loudest bang I ever heard. I thought lightning just hit my place. And I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry, was I like not supposed to do that? I'm like, holy crap, you know, I about shit myself, like literally. So I go outside and look around, and like there's no scorch marks or nothing. I look on the roof, there's nothing. I'm like, I could have swore it hit my freaking apartment. It didn't hit my apartment, it left my apartment. Because the one thing I did notice is like all that negative energy. Like I've done this like a couple times in the early days. All that negative energy that I felt, all that pain, trauma energy was gone. It was gone as soon as I heard the lightning. About 15 minutes later, I get a phone call from my ex-wife telling me that a lightning bolt had just hit the tree out in front of the house.
Here comes the ready or not. Here comes the boys from the south. Here comes the ready or not. How you like me now? I say, here comes the boom, ready or not. Here comes the boys from the south. Boom, here comes the boom, ready or not. How you like me now?
Which is only like a mile away, if that. And this lightning bolt knocked out mine too. Like everybody in like a half-mile radius's like Wi-Fi routers blew out her dryer, and it killed that tree. They eventually had to freaking have it uprooted and chopped down and everything. I'm like, interesting that it went to her place. Yeah, but that was like one of my, I'd say, top 3 biggest like surprise moments, like doing divine magic. So you gotta be careful, like, you know what you're doing with this stuff. But yeah, those names are very powerful, especially if Epinoia has like actually told you what they do. But I think they may actually gravitate more to people that are of the 48%. Now, what does work is like if you got a psychical type person, and it seems like maybe that's what they are, because like they really struggle. It's like they can get Epinoia, but like they're just not feeling lumen. But they can still get the energetic benefits of something that I put into stuff. And they keep trying and stuff like that. I'm like, that describes some people that I know, the psychicals, which they're going to be fine because they decided to go good. They recognize that something was higher than them. They're actively seeking it, actively doing things. Like when you, like, I'm not, this is not like an encoded like sales thing or anything like that. I'm just saying, money is energy. Because you have to work to get it, and you have to do things to get it. It's how we exchange things. So like if you're actually seeking and you're trying to connect to something higher, and you're going through me enough that like, hey, I'm going to give you money to make me a pendant or make me some oils or do some work with me. Now it's showing her that you're actually technically invested in this. And that actually helps things move along a lot better. I first learned about that from some other lady that had a YouTube channel that was similar to mine. And she really like pestered people with like the donation stuff, though. I don't do that. But it was kind of like, if you find value in this video, please consider donating. And I was led to that channel, which was hidden from me. It's like my channel. See, my channel, like Epinoia says, like only certain people can find it. Well, this lady had a channel that and it was just like some of her earlier stuff. Like I kind of lost like didn't click with it after a while, but she did have like a section of time where there was a lot of stuff that I needed at that particular time. But she would say things like, you know, if you find value in this stuff, please consider donating, because it's an exchange and it will help you. Epinoia freaking told me, like, yeah, send her money. I'm like, really? I'm like, how much? And she'll pick a number that's like fair enough for like what you received, but enough that like it's not gonna hurt you to do it, because that will usually come back to you. Yeah, but she had me like PayPal this woman $75 just because of like the information that was in her video that I needed. Epinoia wanted me to do that. So that's what I do sometimes with some people, especially if they're you know, don't have as much money to spend. It's like, you know, try to connect to Epinoia, ask her a number that's right for you, and go by that. And we work stuff out with people. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off track here. But yeah, the psychicals, make sure we got everything here. So the spiritual ones carry the seeds of Sophia and have their lumen partners, even if those lumen partners are sleeping. They did say something about, you know, the seeds, and it was interesting because that's a word that kept coming up. Like seed came up, you know, during the lovers card thing, when I did the first big mushroom trip where she blasted me the hell out of here, took me to all sorts of crazy stuff. And she was having me checked out by something. She called me, this was Sophia, not Epinoia. She actually referred to me as one of her seeds, and it kept coming up. So yeah, those are the spiritual ones. They still require much testing and are both looked after, but in other ways tested harder. So like, yeah, you know, that's the hero's journey type stuff. Like, you can really, really struggle, and you won't often have enough to do like the kind of things that you want to do, but she'll make sure that one way or the other you get what you absolutely need, like to get by. And then if you get better at certain things, then you might have like, you know, a little explosion of extra cash or something like that. But it's not like we're never, these spiritual people, like we're never swimming in the dough. That the closer you are to like the world, like the more money is like a big thing. So psychical people that are in the middle, or maybe leaning a little bit more toward being in line with the world, with the darker side, with authority and all that, they're going to make a lot more money. The material ones, they're definitely going to have a lot more money, because money is a thing of the world. Yeah, we can a lot of times we can generally recognize each other, like you can just feel it, and we are hated by the material types. So the material types, like they're always trying to get as many of the psychical people to lean their way as possible, but they hate us. Especially, they'll hate on you a lot harder, like if you're kind of lower in your progression, because you really haven't got all your stuff down, your ducks in a row, your armor up. You might not have her yet and all that. So they'll really come after you. When you get up to a level high enough, they won't come anywhere freaking near you, for the most part. So you've kind of gotten to like they're down here in the level area, but you've already gotten up to here. They're not up here. Therefore, I don't have to deal with that kind of crap anymore, unless I'm going down there to help another person. In which case, we just go in there and drop a freaking bomb. Like I don't sweat any of that stuff, like, anymore. But the material ones, they are bad news in every way, and they can disguise themselves. They're very manipulative. These are probably, I'm just theorizing, speculating out loud, whenever you see some kind of woo-woo topic where they're talking about, I don't know, like reptilians or something, or people that just don't, like, the most notable way to identify a material person is they don't have empathy. They do not have empathy. So these are the people that are going to be labeled as things like narcissists and sociopaths. But these people can be really good in business and authority type positions. You don't have spiritual people in government. And you're generally not going to have them doing authority type positions like the medical field, where they're maybe some doctors, but and this is just wide brushes here, but like ones that are like trying to get you to like take as many pills as you can, take as many vaccines as you can, just take everything. Like don't go to any of that woo-woo witch doctor stuff. Like, to listen to your doctor, listen to authority. Education, definitely media, definitely news. That's all material people, 100%. But it's those ones on the street level that you got to kind of watch out for. And women know exactly what we're talking about. And there is also the problem that women typically run into. I see this all the time. I see these videos all the time. These like street interview videos. Like, tell me what you're looking for. Like, what's a man got to be to date you? He's got to be at least 6 foot tall. He's got to make like $150,000 a year. He's got to have a good body. Like, this really over the top freaking level of requirements. Well, you know who has all those things? The people that don't have souls, or the people that are psychical, that lean toward the dark side, or the materials, basically. And then you're like, why am I treated so bad? If you want to be treated good, find somebody with a freaking soul. How about that? I think that's another way that psychicals kind of get saved is, they didn't specifically say this in the Nag Hammadi, but it matches something that she kind of sort of explained to me before, and I kind of sort of see it in my head. Kind of like my ex would be a psychical type person. She's get along with her fine now, but she's still very different than she was with me. So if the psychicals don't have the lumens, then the spiritual people take their lumens and plug them into the psychicals. So that's usually what is happening for most people. Like, I'm a special case. Like, I went all the way up the scale to the top of the Gnostic scale, to the alchemical scale, to the rebus, to the philosopher's stone, the magnum opus. I put the divine masculine side together with the divine feminine side, and now they're both unified as one. They're separate but together. It's just like the way it works now is kind of like Chris operates from the left hemisphere of the brain, Lumen operates from the right hemisphere of the brain. But for most people, a lot of times, if you're looking for that mythical, physical twin flame relationship, then that's going to be two spiritual people that are unlocked to a high enough level that they've shed their egos and their traumas and all that garbage, that actually get together. They just resonate together. Then there's the more rare type like me, where it's yeah, I have that, but she's actually in my head. But for most people, maybe this is the way it was always supposed to work. I don't know. So if one person has the lumen and the other person doesn't, but they fall in love, get married and stuff like that, it's like, say I'm marrying a psychical person, even though you don't know that's what's happening, you're taking your lumen out and you're plugging your lumen into the other person. And then all that love you feel for that other person is because you put your lumen in there. We talked about that a few times lately, when you're absolutely head over heels in love with somebody, you're projecting your lumen onto them. And if something changes to where they are no longer resonant with your lumen, or maybe they did something that you don't know about, or who knows what, and they're no longer a good resonant host for your lumen will pull away from them, and then suddenly the relationships you fall out of love. So that's kind of what's going on for the most part. Is And it would also explain why some people are so desperate to find a relationship, because they're missing something that they don't even know about. But the reason why they're not finding what they really need is because their priorities are all screwed up. Like, I want to find someone that's just going to take care of me and has just got all the money in the world and nice cars and all the... Well, guess what? The bad guys have that. It's not always that way, but at least with the over-the-top expectations like you hear about on, you know, the internet and stuff like that, it's like the whole kind of nice guy thing. That in the other thing it said about the psychical people is because they are light from fire. It's not in my notes, but it's in the, like, you should read that whole book. You should really, if you follow this channel, you should really spend the $20, get the Nag Hammadi on Kindle. Get the Kindle one, not the paperback. It's going to make it a hell of a lot easier to find things, to be able to search. Because otherwise you just don't know where the hell it's at in a paperback. But the Kindle Nag Hammadi, like, perfect. What was I just saying? Oh yeah, the light from fire people, that's kind of demiurge stuff. It's kind of like created from the demiurge. Demiurge is the Old Testament God. See, the Gnostic creation story is part of the stuff that they took out when religion took over, because they wanted to hide who was running everything and how it actually works. So the way the story goes is Sophia is part of the divine feminine, but she's like, you know, maybe 2/3 the way down from the highest thing, the highest divine mother and the father. She created something without her partner, which is Christ Savior. So it wasn't made right. It was a little corrupted. It didn't have that divine feminine chill. And because this corrupted thing was created, it like immediately got contained. And then it's swimming around in the container. It's like, I'm the only one in here. I must be God. I'm going to start creating a world. It's like, I'm going to start making guys to serve me and all this stuff, and starts building up this place. So as the Gnostic story goes, at least, the father is like, okay, we can use this. We're just going to use it for like farming super souls that grow up in this place that is so freaking nuts. And but yeah, Sophia, you got to send a part of yourself down there to help them. So that is Epinoia. But yeah, the demiurge is the demiurge is God in Genesis 1 of the regular Bible. And although they don't specifically say it anywhere, the way they authority constructed these books and put two books together that really shouldn't go together, they allow people to lead themselves to believe and understand that it's the same guy. Even though tons and tons of people have noticed, they're like, why is God such an asshole in the Old Testament, but he's like really good and loving in the New Testament? Simple answer, it's not the same guy. What Jesus is referring to when he says my Father in heaven, he means the big thing, the biggest of the big thing. Like, this world is like a tiny bubble in the ocean. The Old Testament God is like the thing that was contained in the bubble, and he decided to make a world. And that's why he had so much ego, anger issues, and he cursed the humans, kicked them out of Eden, and just basically went on to kill approximately 2.8 million documented people just in the Bible alone. More than that, because there's no numbers given for the flood. That's a completely different guy. That's your 10 Commandments guy. Jesus showed up and he's like, no, you guys have 2 commandments. Love the Father with all your heart and love one another. Like, I negated all that other stuff. That's for that guy. That's the Pharisees. They're the ones that worshipped that guy that is a jerk. he has anger issues and all sorts of stuff. And the law back then is set up in such a way that even Jesus said in like the regular Bible, New Testament, it's like it's so complex that like you have to, I don't remember the exact words, but your righteousness could, exceed the Pharisees, and you still probably wouldn't get it done because there's so many little traps in the language. They set it up that way. So it's like, well, if you follow my rules, then you can go to heaven. And it's like literally impossible because of all the ego mind programming and things that you don't know that you have, and you're trying to get into this thing, and that's just like the lower one. And we're actually trying to get out of this whole freaking container altogether. There's multiple layers of everything. But if you study it with wisdom, if you read the books with Epinoia helping you, like those books that they took away will not only make the Bible they actually let you have make sense, because there's so much that doesn't make sense because they strategically took out all the things that had context that made it make sense. It will complete the other one so that you understand it, what's actually going on, and it makes everything you see in the world today make sense. It explains everything. The power structure, the legal system, like why we have to live and work and do life the way we do it. You'll understand it from there. So yeah, we're actually just trying to evolve ourselves to graduate the hell out of this nightmare, because it really is tiring. But maybe you can do just some discernment on yourself, like which one are you? I guarantee you there's no material people here. There's like those ones are just vile. They will be the ones, like I mentioned it recently, but where I mentioned it a lot might have been in the video that I didn't post. So when you see the argument, like they could be arguing about flat earth, they could be arguing about NASA, they could be arguing about religion, it could be anything. But these people will always, 100% of the time, side completely with whatever authority says. And they will say things like, the Bible is just a made-up freaking fairy tale. There's nothing there. Because those lower ones, like there is nothing there to them. They can't perceive any of it. But they will be very nasty. They will be very aggressive if they see someone thinking outside the box. Like, how dare you not go? We have authority for a reason. We have experts for a reason. Whatever the scientists say, then that's what it is. And you're crazy if you don't agree with it. You insert freaking whatever name they're coming up with, and then also they love the freaking laugh emoji. Every time, like that's their signature. So, yeah. I want to steer clear of them. But there could very conceivably be a lot of psychical people too. So with the soul people, she wants to evolve them as high as possible. For the psychical people, hey, like you have a chance to get out too. It says so right there. And the restrictions aren't that freaking hard. Like if you're honestly, seriously trying, if you're predisposed to good and doing good, and you want to be good, and you know there's something higher and you're constantly seeking for it, and something's guiding you along, but you might be like, I can't quite grasp it, but I know it's there and I'm just trying. I'm going to keep trying. You might be a psychical person, and you will get out because of what you're doing, because you're trying. So that was kind of interesting. That was a really interesting part of that book, explaining the three types of humans on this planet, or in this world rather. But why was this part of the thing that I can't talk about yet? Well, it goes into, put it this way, when it comes to things like politics, everybody kind of intuitively knows, they say it at one point or another, that it's all one big rigged game. It's, you know, left wing, right wing, same bird, is what they'll say. They'll say that, but then they still kind of lean one way or the other. But it can be so, understand, well, there's actually another part of that thing that I can cover that ties into this. So let's talk about that first. It kind of ties into like the protocols and stuff that we teach people how to do, breaking down the left brain matrix and all that. The key thing, the key word is knowing. Okay? You know too much. You know way too much. It doesn't mean you actually know, but you think you do. People need help with discerning and understanding the difference between knowing and believing, because they are two completely separate things. Everybody knows somebody that believes something very, very strongly, and thus they think they know it. Like religious people. I know this, 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 and this. Well, how do you know that? Because the Bible tells me so. So you haven't actually seen any of it, interacted. You just like, authority gave you a story, and you're like, yeah, I believe that. And you believed it so much that it becomes your reality. That's still not knowing. It's not knowing. You want to know as little as possible. That is emptying your cup. You want to detach from everything that you think you know, because you cannot see past, outside what you think you know. If you accept everything that authority taught you, I'm like, oh, I know about the sun, I know about the moon, I know about Mars, I know about the inner core of the earth, I know about this and that and this and that. No, you don't know it. You accepted the information that they gave you and conditioned you to take, because they told you at a very young age, this is how it works. There's always somebody smarter than you. There's always somebody at a higher grade than you. There's always somebody that has a bigger degree than you, and you should listen to them. And thus, everybody stays within the box, within the triangle, within the pyramid that is controlled from the top of authority. So you don't think, act, or do anything that authority doesn't want you to do. You stay in your little box, you color inside the lines, and you get nowhere. You only get somewhere when you start challenging what you think you know, and you feel comfortable letting go of what you think you know. A lot of people can't do that because they install other things like fear triggers. If you don't listen to us, you'll go to hell. It's one of the biggest ones there is. That's why I keep bringing it up. But if you can be intellectually honest with yourself, like let's just use religion for an example because it's a good example. Well, God this and God that, and this is how it works. I hear it all the time from religious people. If you can be intellectually honest with yourself, you can see that you don't actually know that. You believe it, but you don't know it. You accepted it, but you can't verify it because it's intangible. So you don't yet know in what ways that might be boxing in your subjective reality because of that, because you don't know how you interact with the world. But the more you empty your cup, the more what you let go of what you think you know, the more you can see. That was the biggest thing, why it was in the last thing. I'm still not giving anything away. But there are things that are right in front of people's faces today that should be blatantly obvious to large groups of people. But because they think they know certain things, they can't see it. It's literally standing right in front of them, and they still can't see it because they think they know. It's the same thing when it comes to people. You think you know who someone is. You think you know, like you hear it all the time on the news. The news is always telling you, well, this guy thinks that, and they're always telling you what people think. I'm like, what are you, Professor X? How the hell do you know what people think? You don't know what people think. Well, I can draw that conclusion because he said this. You don't know what people think. It's end of story. You don't know what people think, and you don't know what people feel. But we will take our own imaginations and assumptions and we'll paste it on someone else and be like, see, I know what you think and I know what you feel. I know what you think about me, and now I'm mad about it. And that person's sitting here like, no you don't, crazy person. Why are you attacking me? Another great example from stage one, back around 2016, 2017, when the media was really ramping up the hate against one particular candidate, and people would be walking around wearing a particular colored ball cap and get violently attacked because that easily programmed person sees that, makes an association, and all of a sudden they believe that they know what that person thinks, what that person feels, what that person believes, and they don't like it, and they attack them. All of which was completely 100% a product of their own imagination. And people do stuff like this all the time without realizing it. You don't know what people think, you don't know what people feel, unless they specifically tell you. And even then, you're only getting a little bits and pieces of it. And even then, they may tell you they feel a certain way and not be comfortable telling you the truth. So the fact is, you don't know. You not only see more when you learn to retrain your mind into a state of not knowing, but you will understand more because your mental processes are not being locked up by this intricate web of like, I know what this is, I know what this is, I know how this works, I know how this works, this person's good, that person's bad, this organization's good, like you created all that. And now you can't see past it. But you got to be intellectually honest and be like, you don't know. How do you know? Oh, well, the news told me. How do they know? Like, it's not an easy process waking yourself up and breaking yourself out of mental conditioning, but it is necessary. If you want to be able to operate as a evolved human being the way you were meant to operate and perceive the world the way you were meant to perceive it, you have to break down what they did to you. They filled your head with bullshit, and they anchored it with repetition in fear and trauma-based mind control. For 12 years, you reacted to a bell. You knew when it was time to sit down. You knew when it was time to shut up. And you knew when you had to listen, and you had to absorb the information from the person. And then they forced you to be tested to make sure you assimilated what they wanted you to assimilate by grading you. You're like, oh, you did such a good job on your test, which really means good job getting programmed. Yay. Can't wait till that day when you get to put that funny little hat on with the black cube of Saturn capping your crown chakra, and we can celebrate your gradual indoctrination into the matrix. You're going to be so proud. It sucks, getting older and looking back and understanding like that's exactly what happened. But the people that run all this stuff, they're not doing that. They know exactly what's going on here. But you don't. And they want to make sure that you don't. So they dumb you down every freaking way possible. Endless bread and circus. Right at your fingertips, coming through that nice black screen. Let's get excited and watch a bunch of guys freaking throw a ball back and forth. Ooh, that's just freaking fascinating, isn't it? Like, ooh, he threw a ball to the other guy and like numbers went up on a board. Let me be proud of myself because I'm wearing the same shirt that they're wearing. It's mind freaking control. It's meant to dumb you down. It's bread and circus. They've been doing it forever because it works. Beyond that, they put stuff in your water. They spray stuff everywhere. They put it in your food. Everything possible to keep you from waking up your freaking mind. It's a constant process. Even with everything that I've freaking done, I have to stay on top of it. I have to stay on top of it, and I have to keep working at it. Like, you never stop working at it, ever. But anyway, that's enough for today. Hopefully you learned something. I'm keeping an ear out. I'm trying not to look at stuff or look, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Because, as I said in a video here recently, when you don't look for stuff, she'll bring it to you. So you kind of figure out, like, you don't actually have to look for stuff. If you just remain open and unknowing, she'll make sure what she wants you to see gets to you. If you're constantly out there searching for clues, now you're seeking. Seek and you shall find. It depends on what you're seeking. Well, if you're seeking clues for what you think you already know, you're going to manifest those clues. And then you're going to get trapped going in loops, on all these red herrings. So it's better to not know anything. It's okay to have an idea what you think it might be, but just accept the fact that, like, you don't really know, and maybe you're wrong. So you're not anchoring it into your consciousness with concrete. Then it's easier to change. Then it's easier to adjust as you are presented with new information. That's all we got for right now. If you want to contact us, if you want to support the channel, if you want to pick up one of our pendants, and even if you don't see something on the store, like, if you feel like you're looking for something in particular, you can message us, because I have a bunch that I just don't have time to list. And then also, if it, in certain cases, there may be something where she'll just tell me, like, we need to make something specific for this person. I'm like, okay, it's going to take me like maybe 2-3 days, but she's going to pick out exactly what stones, how to put it in what combinations. Then we got to make the core, then we got to cast the resin, then we got to wrap it, then we got to charge it and bless it and all this stuff. Now you got something that was made specifically for you. The people that follow me regularly, people in the group, people that already have my stuff and know how it works. So that one I just made, I don't have a name for it. It's kind of tuned for Epinoia, but it's got a little bit more for, like, now, because we got that first one in there. It's about the future, perceiving the future, truth, secret knowledge, access, downloading information, and original thinking, creativity, think outside the box type stuff. And I'll test it again tonight, but if last night was any indicator, give you some pretty interesting dreams. It was actually kind of fun. It was weird. It's hard to describe. But yeah, I'll have to start doing that some more, because I'm usually this too. I can't shut my mind down. That's why these videos run so long. So I'll be up till like 3-4 in the morning sometimes, because I'm like, I don't want to go to sleep. I still have information to process. So I'm just too tired to, like, dream. But that helped, and that was cool. It also means you're in REM sleep, so you're getting a better quality of sleep. Anyway, I'm doing it again. clumencreations.etsy.com, Chris and Lumen. See you next time.